Boom, and we are live with another episode of the Brownwater Banter podcast. I am Jared Seymour.
My name is Joey Cates.
And do we have a great episode for you today? We have Dave Elliott in the studio today to talk to us about all things media, man, and his career here on the Mississippi Gulf Coast. It's going to be a great episode, and I cannot wait to jump into this one. But before we do, we want to mention our sponsors because those are the people that keeps the light on for us, as Joey said so eloquently a few episodes back, and I'm sticking with that. I like it.
That's an old line.
That's right. That's right.
Good.
Southern Magnolia Smiles. That's our good buddy, Dr. Robbie Williams, located over here in Ocean Springs on Washington Avenue. If you're looking for a great local dentist who will take care of you, here is him and his friendly staff. They're on all the social platforms. Just check them out at Southern Magnolia Smiles. Or you can go to their regular website, www.southernmagnoliasmiles.com. And if you're old school and you want to keep it real, call them up on the landline, 228-215-1202.
He still has one of those.
Yeah, he still got it. He's a business. He has to. And another one of our sponsors that we're proud to be working with is Hilltree Marketing. They're actually working on a website for us right now. We're going to launch it here in the next few days. You're going to be seeing it and hearing about it. We're super excited. But if you're a local business or anybody really, whether, if you need a website, go check them out. HilltreeMarketing.com. They do website and graphic design, social media stuff, IT services, videography, photography, and aerial, I always butcher that, aerial cinematography. They do, they have a drone. They do some
sweet
great
drone too.
They do some great work. And Jesse has been a pleasure to work with. So we're super happy about that. We also have Trevor Reed. That's this weekend, May 29th, Saturday. Downtown Ocean Springs on Government Street. It's the third annual Downtown Ocean Springs Crawfish Cookoff. 2,600 pounds of crawfish are going to be cooked between 25 teams. You buy your ticket, you go in there and check it out. You vote for your favorite. It's a People's Choice Award style competition. Let them know who boiled the best crawfish. And they got beer, crawfish and beer. I don't know what else you could want out of life.
And we'll be there with merchandise.
Correct. We're going to be hanging out. We're going to live stream. And finally, we have the Harrison County Development Commission. Mr. Bill over there sponsored the show for us this month. We really appreciate it. They have a C-Force training program that I'm going to mention. I continue to mention. They partner up high school age kids with the career field that they are interested in, put them with a business here locally and let them taste what they will be doing before they go to college. That way they don't waste a bunch of time and money at something that they're not really involved in. And if they like it, they've already made a connection in the game. So it's a great program. Harrison County Development Commission does a lot of great stuff for the local area here, bring in a lot of business. Just check them out. They have a website, look them up. They're doing a lot of great things for the community. So without further ado, Dave.
Yeah.
Let's get into it.
Man, thank you for showing up today and being on the episode with us today. I don't even know if you lived under a rock, you would not know who Dave Elliott is if you're from the Mississippi Gulf Coast. I've been watching you as long as I can remember on WLOX.
Yeah, since you were just this tall.
Yeah, exactly.
Knee high to a grasshopper,
as they say.
But you guys got a cool looking studio, by the way.
Thanks,
good
man.
Lighting. You got like this little blue purple thing you got going over here.
We try.
This is nice.
We try.
And I want to point out that I decided to whip out the WLOX baseball cap since I noticed you guys wear hats.
Yes.
I just want to be part of the team.
That's
and
right.
Any excuse I can legitimately wear a hat, I'll take it.
That's because we're bald.
Well, I wasn't going to go there.
No, it's a well-known.
I'm follically challenged as well.
Correct.
Is that what you're supposed to say now?
Follically challenged. That is right. That is right. Man, what an amazing career you've had in media, in broadcasting. Still have. You did. I'm sure just left the studio not too long ago.
I did the 4 and the 5 o'clock show live, and jumped in the car with a police escort. Got over here in time. Ran red lights, cut across people's yards. It was very wild.
Listen, I hear what you're saying. We're important. I get it.
Okay.
I get it. I know.
VIPs.
That's right. But it was funny. When I told him about, what time we shoot normally and everything. And I said, because I always tell the guests, I'm like, and it's live now. And he responds back, yeah, I know. I go, and I was like, what a stupid thing to say.
That's all I do.
If it wasn't live, I wouldn't do it.
Yeah, right. But some of all of our guests are not accustomed to being live on a show. So nothing new for you. But how did you get your start? How did you get your start in media? And how did you end up here on the Mississippi Gulf Coast?
Oh, boy. That's about 5 questions rolled into one.
You got to keep up. This is a high-paced show.
Here's what I'm going to do. I grew up in Minneapolis, Minnesota, went to high school in Southern California, went back to the University of Minnesota, graduated, moved to Jackson, Mississippi, ultimately migrated legally to the Mississippi Gulf Coast.
There he goes. He just started. He just started.
But I went. My dad actually taught radio television at the University of Minnesota. So when I was a kid, I used to hang out at the office. He had a TV show on Minnesota Public Television. I used to go to the studio with him. But radio was my true love. And so when I got out of school, I got a radio gig in Jackson at a legendary rock station called WZZQ. There are folks that still remember it. There are alumni clubs on social media and fan pages from that old rock station. And then eventually broke into television. It was kind of a weird story we can get into if you want.
Oh, yeah. We're here to hear it. We want all the details. Man.
Yeah. All the dirty
details. How'd you get into
all the way down?
Yeah, well, I bounced around about 3 different radio stations in Jackson. One of them was owned by Jimmy Love. The Love family owned WLOX from the get-go. He and I got to be friends. But I went to an open audition for a new television show they were starting in Jackson called PM Magazine. It was on WJTV, the CBS affiliate up there. You know, they started, it was like 2 on the town, a guy and a gal out on the town. Today we're bringing you the show from the Jackson Zoo. Today we're out at the mall. Today we've stumbled into a swamp somewhere. And then we'd have little stories and this and that. Anyway, the audition, they started out with, 20 candidates, whittled down to 10, down to 5, down to 2. And then I ended up getting the job. So that was my first job in television in Jackson. And then Jimmy Love was always after me to move to the coast and start at WLOX. And I did that in about 1986.
Yeah.
You guys weren't even born.
Yeah, I was 82. I was 82.
83.
I was 82.
Not as young as I look. All right.
Yeah.
Wait, I said that wrong.
It's the Botox.
That's right. Yeah. That's right.
We got a lot of makeup that goes on before this.
It's a whole production to get this show going. Hair and makeup. No. So bust into TV, and then you come down here in 86, and boy, has this area changed since 1986.
Oh, right? I mean, when I came down there, there were tumbleweeds blowing across Highway 90.
Yeah.
And, I think there was still maybe even some form of illegal gambling. I don't know. I mean,
we can neither confirm nor deny that.
And all sorts of strange clubs all around Biloxi that are now being torn down.
They just shut one down the other day.
Yes.
I think they actually,
tragic.
Imploded that thing.
Yeah.
Right.
But so the coast was kind of wild. And I didn't know. I never even when I lived in Jackson for 4 years, I only came to the coast a couple of times, so I didn't know much about South Mississippi. So, but now I would, even though without giving any details, I had a ball when I lived in Jackson.
Okay,
of course, I was in my early 20s, but
that's what the 20s are for.
I know. If you don't have a ball in your early 20s,
you messed up.
Seek professional help.
Exactly.
But now I would live no other place in Mississippi other than the Gulf Coast.
Absolutely, and I love this state, but that is a true statement.
Yeah.
Salt water changes you for sure.
Yeah. It absolutely does.
Well, I noticed you guys do a lot of fishing stuff.
We do.
Don't get into that with me now. I don't even know how to bait a hook.
Yeah, that's fine.
Neither do we. Neither do we. We just talk.
We just talk about it.
Okay. But golf now, I'm all over it.
Okay.
Talk about golf.
Okay.
Yeah.
We got a good buddy of ours, James, who is a great golfer, won the Slavic a few times.
Yeah.
But I'm pretty terrible. But I do
too.
enjoy it because it is a very fun game.
Yeah.
That
hard,
frustrating,
super hard game. Yes, for sure. But so I want to stick with the broadcasting first, and then we'll go some other places. I got some good questions that I'd like to ask. But how has broadcasting changed, in just as specific as WLOX, right, since 1986 to now 2021? I'm sure, just from what I can tell as a viewer, like there's a ton of changes that's going on, right? Are y'all more digital now? Less?
Well, let me tell you about the biggest change.
Okay.
I brought up the Love family. When I started in television, all stations were locally owned and operated. Then in the late 90s, you saw a trend where groups would begin to buy 10, 15 stations in regions. Now, almost every television station in America is owned by about 5 companies.
That's not good.
Yeah.
No, I don't think it's good.
That's not
but
good at
I
all.
have a good company. Our company's a good company.
Right.
They just made a $2.9 billion acquisition of another 40 stations. But as long as you perform, and WLOX performs,
Yes.
you're okay in that corporatist world. But I'm not a big fan,
Right.
of decisions being made in other cities and creating kind of all stations being the same.
I'm sure I don't know if you've seen, there was a couple like clips went through Facebook, social media stuff, where it showed multiple pictures on the screen.
That was Sinclair.
You know what I'm talking about, though?
Different
They're all reading the
stories,
same.
different red
They're all,
thing.
they're all reading the same script. That's what I don't like about it.
Yeah.
It's easier to control the narrative, right?
Yeah, and ultimately, and it's going to be long after I retire, they're even going to have a news anchor in Atlanta anchoring the Gulf Coast News, or somebody in Dallas.
Sounds terrible.
Yeah,
that's going to backfire.
Yeah,
that's going to.
Well,
backfire.
I mean, a lot of things. Digital, you brought it up.
Right.
The other big change with the introduction of .com and social media, spreading out content over all of these different platforms. That's been the other big change in our business.
Right. Exactly. So the way a story breaks now is completely different than it would have done really even 15 years ago.
Because you know it like this.
Well,
if it
everybody
happens, you
does.
know
But
it in
that's
30 seconds.
that's a good thing.
Yeah.
We have these things now. We had like 2 live trucks, and we'd have to, roll those live trucks out to the scene. These guys now, we have about 8 of these backpacks.
I've seen it.
Right.
They're called Live View.
Live View Solo.
Or I can do it. I can do it on my phone. I
Yeah.
have the Live View app, where I can, hi, I'm Dave Elliott. I'm live here where a pedestrian has been hit by a train in Long Beach, and I mean, it's just that part of it really is amazing. Is the immediacy of it.
Yeah,
Correct.
you get news when it happens.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
Yeah. Beforehand, I mean, it was on the 4 o'clock show or the 5 o'clock show only, right?
Mhm.
But y'all still have, I would imagine, a great viewership. I know I watch.
Our
every
ratings
day.
are like ridiculous.
Yeah.
They're- As I say, and that puts us in good standing with the company,
Mhm.
because a big company that owns 130 TV stations. I always say there are 3 tiers. There are the those who deliver, and thankfully WLOX is in that top tier.
Mhm.
Those that are just kind of hanging in there, and those that were kind of dogs, and everyone else is supporting them, but they still generate revenue. And so that's another big change has been there aren't any photographers anymore. They're all one-man bands. I don't know if you see our reporters out. They're all shooting their own stories.
Tristan Rupert. We ran into him
Tristan's
at
cool.
downtown First Friday.
Tristan's
We
cool.
gave him a
he was out
huggy and told him we'd be in touch. So,
Yeah.
And I have Tristan on. He's
yes. Yeah. So everything kind of shrunk.
cool. Yeah.
Technology did that for people.
Quicker.
But news is extremely important, but it's more the commodity. And I think, probably, correct me if I'm wrong, why WLOX has probably got the ratings that they do is because of the personalities that y'all have, the on-air talent like yourselves, and the trust that y'all have built over, like I said, as long as I've been watching local news, it's been you and a crew. Now, some have retired.
Many have retired.
Yeah.
In the past 5 years.
Yeah, yeah. As a matter of fact,
the legends have gone.
if you're watching and you see me somewhere at Walmart in the frozen fruit section or something, don't say, "Hey, Dave, when are you going to retire?" I'm sick of hearing that.
He doesn't want to hear it.
No, I don't want to hear it. I'm good to go.
Yes.
My pacemaker's still going.
That's right. Still got a couple beats left.
Yeah.
Yeah, you and Karen are like the dream team, man.
Yeah.
You're the dream team.
We were installed into the Mississippi Broadcasters Hall of Fame for being the longest serving anchor team, and I don't know, maybe there was a caveman who once was, beating news on a stone.
Right.
But we were, we've been together a long time.
Yeah, I was going to ask, how many years is that? How many years?
From the very beginning. Karen and I have been together from the very beginning.
So
we both worked in Jackson at different stations. I came down in like July of '86. She came down in like August of '86. Don't draw any conclusions from that, by the way.
Oh,
you
boy.
scandalous
Here we go.
scoundrel. You.
Yeah.
See, he's starting it. So
You
whenever
know.
we lean into all that kind of talk.
But it was just a coincidence. And we've been together ever since. Isn't that sweet?
Yeah.
Oh,
I mean, that's got to be weird. I mean, to be with somebody that long, I mean, it's like your right arm, you know what I'm saying?
yeah,
If you've been
and it's chemistry too.
Right.
For sure.
That's important. You can anticipate
right.
what one another is going to do or say.
So you know her breaks, she knows your
Yeah.
breaks and everything else. Yeah.
I saw just 2 days ago, and this goes back to what we're saying about everything shrinking. You're saying that no live crew trucks anymore, live view solo on the backpack going live. I think y'all don't have as many or any cameramen in the studio anymore. Is that correct?
Yeah, well, we're robotic.
Correct.
We're robotic. They don't
Okay.
like that word.
Automated.
Automated. Everything
Okay.
is automated.
But
And when I started in radio, things began to get automated. I want you to get back to that.
No, go ahead.
Back to that point,
Yeah.
Jared, because it's important about how we've gotten robotic. But I used to do a Monday night football show for IP Casino over at one of these radio groups where there are 6 radio stations in the building. And I had the code to the door to go in and do the radio show. Yeah. And I'd walk in. The 6 radio stations, not a person in there. There was not a person in there at 7 o'clock at night.
Yeah.
I was like, oh my God.
Yeah.
This is ridiculous.
Because everybody just hits play and
everything's pre-planned, pre-recorded. But we used to have about 3 or 4 camera people.
Yep.
And someone who ran the teleprompter. And in the studio, you had a director, just like you see on TV, pushing the buttons and sliding this. And
Joey makes me do all that.
Yeah. Well, you can see it.
You used to be able to see it. You used to be able to see them behind the scenes.
And you noticed that.
And you'd have someone running the audio. Now they go in and they pre-program. They call it coding.
Yeah.
Well, everyone knows what coding is now.
Right.
But they call it coding, and we're surrounded by these robotic cameras that move and, this and that. But there's not a person in there. It's just us.
Well, and where I was going with that is yesterday, day before, you control the teleprompter.
Yeah,
I guess Karen couldn't read it because you didn't click the right button or something. No, but y'all owned up to it. I thought it was awesome.
Well,
it was awesome.
Karen and I do it. No one else really does it. But Karen, we will do that. I told a little story about that.
Yeah, you held it up. I watched it. I was like, that's awesome.
I figure if something happens on TV, most management wants everyone to just
exactly.
Go to commercial.
I think if something happens, joke about it.
What do you call that? You broke the wall. What is it? The fourth wall or something? When you speak to obviously you're speaking to the audience always, but like you broke character from being the reporter, and you're like, hey, we messed up. This is what happened. Sorry, it's what happened.
But it was the little magic wand's fault. It really was.
It was.
It had like a mind of its own suddenly. It just went crazy. It just went very fast in the wrong direction.
So when something messes up when you're on there, it's just y'all two. So if it messes up, you just got to wing it.
There is a crew in this little kind of refrigerated room, with all of the it's not even, it's data now. Everything's your data. We're data right now.
Yep, absolutely.
100%. So you've had a unique perspective also to see the Gulf Coast grow, as we've mentioned, but from your perspective, you're out covering these events. I mean, you're at most of them. I mean, a lot of them.
Yeah.
What has it been like to watch the Mississippi Gulf Coast grow since it was in the 80s from your perspective?
Well, the arrival of casino gaming. I thought I was going to be in this market about 5 years. At that time, people were staying in markets for 3 to 5 years and then moving on to a bigger market. And I had a chance to move to a couple of bigger markets. But suddenly, as I say, I came in 86, then 92, casino gaming arrives, and there was this buzz.
Blow up,
there was this unbelievable excitement on the coast. And so I just said, well, this is cool. So that was probably the biggest change here on the coast. But otherwise, as far as the charter boats and as far as the restaurants and the golf industry has grown tremendously, but it's really been all driven by the gaming industry. So that's really been the only significant change.
I would say for us, I think you mentioned earlier before we went live, you don't maybe come over to D'Iberville as much. But
when I first moved here, I lived in Lemoyne Boulevard. I rented a house that's now a doctor's office.
Yeah.
But I lived in this really weird concrete bunker house that had about 5 acres. I rented it for about 6 months. And now it's, I think, a big doctor's office or medical complex or something. So
God's country. You was in God's country.
You guys are both D'Iberville guys.
We're from St. Martin.
St. Martin, Lemoyne.
Yeah, we're on Lemoyne.
Well, I technically was in St. Martin.
Yes,
because there's
correct.
that void that nobody can explain to me. And I think it's technically probably Jackson County.
It's a great area.
Yeah. Where I was going with that, though, about the D'Iberville comment is over the years, 92. So it's been a few years since legalized gambling was came to the coast. We've also seen post Katrina retail grow on the north side of the bay, D'Iberville area specifically.
Promenade.
And that, for someone like me and Joey who live over here, that's what we see is the big name box stores and all of the development that has gone on and continues to go on over in our neck of the woods. So it's not like Joey said, like we remember it and our parents remember I remember when Lemoyne Boulevard was a two-lane street.
Yeah.
Right. And they remember it when it was like cow fields and farms over here. So it has grown significantly. And I think that is all due to gaming.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, everything's connected. I mean, you get on an economic roll.
Right.
And then you're obviously there are residual benefits to that. But, if you really want to get into all these brick and mortar stores, they're dinosaurs. They're doomed.
Yeah. There's
But
no
whatever.
doubt. There's no
There's
doubt.
gonna be a lot of empty buildings in about 15 years.
Or new innovative
Yeah.
ideas to put in those.
Or a lot of
buildings, right?
websites coming off of them
Yeah.
for sure.
I know a lot of the big malls like
Gaucher.
Well, that's
Gaucher's.
that one's pretty
Yeah.
one class. But like over in Biloxi, they're trying to come up with creative businesses to put inside of those malls that are Amazon internet proof.
Yeah.
So that's an ongoing struggle. But you're right, retail is in a pinch when it comes to brick and mortar.
Well, you have the online shopping, and then now, and it was accelerated during the pandemic with the home, working from home.
Correct.
That's what's going to happen in all the big cities is more and more people working from home. So I think you're going to have a lot of empty office, commercial space, and retail space in the next 10 years. I frankly don't know what the landscape is going to look like.
Yeah, hopefully that'll bring some of these prices down.
Well, I know a
Yeah,
bunch
good
of
Lord.
like major companies like Ingalls and stuff like that. Most of their guys are still at home.
Yeah.
They're still hanging out.
Well, we still have a few people at home, but we're still not really allowing people. We have to get permission to have people in the studio.
Right.
So we're still Zoomitis.
Yeah,
Everything's Zoom. At fird I hated it. Now I'm thinking, well, this isn't too bad.
We
Yeah.
had to transition on this show from what we're doing right now to just strictly online, and there were pros and cons. You lose the human element,
Yeah.
the ability to riff off of people when you're talking, but it extended our reach.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we're
we got
doing
some-
that too.
We got
I
some-
use experts from all over the country now.
Yeah, and you can do
So,
that with the
yeah.
technology. We had one of the large boat manufacturers on our show just
Right.
because we sent an email, and he was like, "Sure,
But-
I'll do it." And we're like, "Really?" Us?
But the
You know?
same
Okay.
thing. You're at the fault of the internet. You know what I'm saying? And you
Right,
gotta trust.
connections,
Yeah.
technology, but anyway, so it's give and take.
We like hanging out and doing it.
Live, yeah.
Well,
in
I am
person.
too. I'd rather have people, and we're slowly but surely bringing people back into the studio. I have the governor coming in next week, and we've had I had Fofo Gillich on the other day, and also one of our state senators, and so we're slowly bringing people back into the
That's
studio.
good.
So
That's good. Who other than Joey and myself has been the most proud people that you talked to? Like your best interview, you're most proud of it, or it was like the craziest, I don't know, in your whole career.
that's kind of a hard one. I'm gonna.
Or not, maybe let's not use favorites.
most
Let's use-
memorable.
Yeah,
Memorable,
because
there we go.
because
Yeah.
favorites is kind of hard because
Yeah.
it's like children.
Correct.
You want to pick
Correct.
a favorite.
Correct.
But, I'll tell you two of the coolest ones. BB King, because
yeah.
we
Wow.
went on the road with him about 92, I think, for 3 days. I interviewed him on his tour bus up in Jackson, and then we go up to some kind of weird blues festival. I think it was outside of Yazoo City. Can't remember the name of the town. And then we go up to Indianola, somewhere up in the Delta, Sunflower, Mississippi. I don't remember where it was, to a honky tonk club.
Wow.
And the one thing I remember most about that place, the ceilings were like 6 feet high, and it was packed, and people were still smoking in
Oh,
those
yeah.
days, and it was crazy. So, and BB was cool. So I think going on the road 3 days with BB King was a memorable story.
It's pretty
And then
legit.
also we took a train, did a ride on the train ride itself, Amtrak. It's a famous route from New Orleans to Chicago. Spent a couple days up there. And believe it or not, I don't like it very much now, Oprah Winfrey. But at the time, I love. She was so nice and so cool, and a Mississippian.
Yeah, she's from.
And so
Mississippi.
we went to her show and got the tour, went backstage, did everything. And I have to say, she was very accommodating, very kind, very sweet.
So go ahead, Joey. Go ahead.
No,
Go
no,
ahead.
I was just going to say how the news has changed since then. I mean, like y'all used to do all those main things, and then today, how much do y'all usually get out and do those live?
I really don't do as much as I used to. We used to
Right.
travel all over the place.
Yeah, because
Yeah,
I remember
man.
back in the day, y'all would go everywhere.
Oh yeah, we would. I went to Versailles, and we went to Madrid. We went to Breckenridge. We went to the Cayman Islands when we would do 30. We'd come back, do a week's worth of stories, and throw together a 30-minute special. And then we used to take the satellite truck on the road and do these road trips. One of them was all along the Natchez Trace. One was historic Highway 61, where we started in like Natchez and ended up in the Delta. Along the way, every day we'd just stop, find a place to stop, and just do stories and do live shots and stuff.
That would be awesome.
Yeah, we just
Yeah.
don't do that anymore.
Yeah.
I,
Is
really
there a
don't
reason
want
behind
to
that?
do that. I don't really want to do it.
Yeah. But
I kind of got over it.
It seems cool. Yeah,
yeah.
It seems like you could pass it down to some of those,
Yeah, but
younger bucks.
nobody's really doing that.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you why. When I started, we had a 5, a 6, and a 10. We now have, what, 2.5? I don't even know. I've never watched. 2.5 hours in the morning. What do we have?
A bunch.
I can't tell you.
Okay, 2.5 hours.
I'm
in
at
the
work,
morning.
unfortunately.
Yeah, we have an 11 o'clock show, a 4 o'clock show, a 5 o'clock, a 6, a 6:30, a 10.
Yeah.
Pretty much all day long.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
there's not really time to do
Right.
stuff like that because there's a demand with the same number of people to provide content for all of these shows.
What does that look like behind the scenes? So we see all the on-air faces all the time, but from you waking up, everyone that is a part of this wakes up in the morning. How do you craft that? What's going to be on the 11 o'clock, the 4 o'clock, the 5 o'clock? Is it an aggregate of news that comes in? You have editors that decide who's going to be the story. What's going to be the story
producers,
for the day?
executive producers. They all have meetings. They dole things out. They talk. They go. I don't get involved in that. I'm kind of a free agent. I'm kind of a worry worry only about my shows.
Right.
I shouldn't admit that because there's an air of selfishness to that. But I just kind of worry about the things I'm responsible for. But there are people who all get together and determine and decide all that. So.
Okay.
Did you ever pull that card with the big stuff? He's like,
Yeah.
you ever do one of
I'm
those
getting that
things?
story. That's going to be me.
No. Well, on interviews, I'm very competitive.
Right.
On interviews, not necessarily on stories as much, but on interviews, I'm that way.
Yeah.
I remember the big news stories, which these are more national. They're so not as much local, but y'all still cover them. I mean, like I remember the O.J. Simpson. That was a big one. Y'all had to cover all the time.
9/11.
Yeah, that one. And then, of course, most recently, the COVID stuff. That's been ongoing for the past year. So lots of big things. And you always do such a great job of kind of putting the local spin on it. So
yeah, well, I mean, that is really what is keeping local news alive is you do have to localize what is happening and what people are talking about. I mean, you can't go to, Fauci's place, thank goodness.
Right.
But you can, you can localize it, find your own experts, your own stories, your own people who are impacted and affected by it. And that's what's really cool about local news.
Yeah. And you mentioned earlier about some guy in Georgia bringing the news. I don't want any part of that.
Well, it's coming, baby.
Maybe an anchor could get away with it, possibly. But how would they? You have to have people here in the field, right? I mean, y'all are still doing that, right?
Well, you'd have local TV stations would essentially become bureaus.
Okay.
More
like freelance people kind of just running out and covering a story.
You might just have a couple of people, and what'll happen is it'll be kind of a regional. Like our company, for instance, owns WLOX. DAM up in Hattiesburg. Is that still a TV station?
Not sure.
I have no idea.
I think that was a jab.
I think they run all our stories.
Yeah, that's a jab.
It's just reruns of WLOX all day long.
It's definitely a jab.
And then we have WLBT in Jackson. And so, eventually I think you're going to get to a point where, everyone will share stories.
I just don't think that's a good idea.
That's kind of how it is now, especially with the mainstream, like CNN, MSNBC, they run the same stuff.
That's not good.
I don't know. It's like a monopoly.
Well, MSNBC wouldn't know what to do without the New York Times or the Washington Post.
Correct.
Because everything's, driven by the corporate and elite media,
right?
Which is essentially the Times and the Post and the 3 broadcast networks and Fox, MSNBC, and CNN. So
yeah, I'm not a fan.
Not a fan at all.
Of melting everything down into just a few channels. I think the more people that can bring news to the table, more investigative reporting there is, it keeps things more truthful. I don't know if that's a good way to say it or not, but when everybody's reading off the same script, that just can't be good.
Yeah.
It's easier to sway public opinion.
And
that's powerful.
And boy, are they.
Right.
And it's unfortunate that people have shown that they can be so obedient, compliant,
correct,
and easily swayed by it all.
That's correct.
Well, then you get those people that don't even watch the news; they just get all their music from all their news from social media.
Yeah, the headline readers. Yeah, the headline readers.
Well, and then there's clickbait. So
correct.
The problem with social media is everyone sees the headlines, but how many people click on the story and actually read it?
Well, nowadays it's all about the comment section too. I don't know if you ever go on Facebook a lot.
No, I'm a Facebook guy.
Well,
I don't go on Facebook, but I post on Facebook.
Okay. But, so a news outlet, whoever, right, puts out a story, like you said, clickbaity. Some of them do it, I think, on purpose. They say, hey, if we write the headline this way, we're going to get way more engagement than if we write
that's what it's all about.
Yeah.
And that's a shame.
And
that's a shame.
And that's where they tiptoe along the lines of half truths.
Correct. And then it just gets people stirred up in the comment section. It always devolves into just the worst in human.
Yeah, and we're so divided right now anyway.
Correct.
I mean,
Correct.
They're talking about this January 6th commission studying what happened during the riot at the Capitol, and they're comparing it to the 9/11 commission, which studied 2001. Well, the country was pretty much all together in 2001.
Right.
Mhm.
It's not in 2021.
No.
This thing is not going to be a partisan investigation of what actually happened on January 6th at the Capitol. I can tell you that.
Yeah, bipartisan, you mean?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Oh, I said partisan.
Yeah.
I meant it's going to be.
It's going to be
Right.
partisan. Correct. That's for sure. I mean, so what do we do? How do we get everybody back together? What's your
I
take
don't
on
know.
it?
I'm a guy.
That's a big question.
I'm pessimistic on it, frankly, on that one, because I just think it's conquer and divide by our overlords.
Correct.
The leaders that are running the country. And it's all money and power and control. But we've become. You'd think we'd become less tribal by now, but they've created a real tribal atmosphere in America,
I don't think that's by accident either, like
No.
you said.
And it's all controlled by the media.
Right.
Yeah.
All
Well, the
the
media
media.
is a big
Yeah.
part of it, but Washington, and the career politicians, the founders would be turning over in their graves, if they saw what's going on now.
You're taking up the muskets again.
That's right.
I'm ready.
Packing that
People
black
say,
powder.
"Oh, we've got civil war right now." Well, I say, "No, screw that." I say we need a revolutionary war.
Oh, so you're ready. I mean, you're ready to go. You're like, we're not doing this halfway. We're going all the way.
No,
right?
I'd be, listen, if I was a millionaire, I'd be off the grid 100%. I'd be out in New Mexico with a bunker and recycled water and solar panels, and I wouldn't be part of any of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's what a lot of people are doing. They don't want to pick sides. They just leave it. They don't want
it's tough because it's a lose-lose kind of situation.
You step
in
into it, you get judged. You step out of it, you get judged. So you just leave it alone.
And if you leave it alone, then you let them, whoever they are, take over. But you don't. I watch like a lot of your on like, is it the Sunday edition where y'all have people in? I guess pre-COVID is over well, but you don't pull any punches, and you're not scared to share your opinion. And a lot of times, like you mentioned in the media, it seems like people all fall kind of one way, and I feel like you push back a little bit.
Yeah, well, you have to push back,
right?
Somebody's got to ask those
I
questions.
mean, you don't go in. That's why I got a few haters on the coast, and they're on both sides of the political spectrum. I got some people who think I'm a raging liberal, and then I got some people who think I'm some kind of uptight conservative, because you have to ask the people the questions. You don't just play along.
Right. Have you ever went on record as to how do you describe yourself politically?
Politically, I'm a part anarchist.
Okay. Nothing wrong with that.
Part libertarian.
All right.
And that's about it.
Yeah.
There you go.
Okay.
So that ought to clear it up.
Okay.
He's not for
who writes most of that stuff when you do those interviews? Is that you coming up with the questions?
Yeah, in a show like that, yes.
Yeah.
But I'm going to be honest. I'm going to give away this secret. On our 5 o'clock news, for instance, we get a lot of our news from the network, from ABC. I rewrite a lot of that.
Really?
Oh yeah.
And you have obviously have the creative freedoms to do that.
Well, lead-ins to stories I do,
Right.
or what we call VOs, which are just 28-second reads,
right?
Under video. Yeah, I rewrite a lot because you see how ABC
chooses,
chooses just particular words.
That's right.
And things like that. So yeah.
So you can rewrite the intros.
Yeah, or I'll just ad lib it on the air. Change it.
It's all about like how you frame the story, right? How you frame the narrative. So.
Is that the clout you have at WLOX?
Did you have to earn that?
Anyone else doesn't. I'm not sure there are many news anchors around the country who do it, but they should.
It's y'all have a new, can I call it like a new class that y'all are kind of passing the torch. A lot of new faces at WLOX, and hopefully they're going to be people that stick around. And kind of, again, going back to what we said in the beginning, like, I think y'all have developed a certain level of trust with the community. Otherwise people wouldn't watch. Right. And it seems like you got some new faces. We mentioned Tristan coming in to kind of take over and take it into the next few years. Is that kind of how you see it? Is that a plan at WLOX to keep, same name, same faces kind of people?
Yeah, I'm not sure in this climate you're going to be able to
Keep people like
that long.
It seems like a springboard effect.
Yeah. And when I first got into television, there was always a 3 to 5 year plan. I'm going to stay here and then I'm going to move up to a market that's a little larger and then a little larger, and we'll see how far this goes. I happen to have liked it here. I mean, I got married, had a son, bought a house, bought a place in Destin, bought a condo in New Orleans. So I'm kind of married to this place. So
living a dream.
So we have, I don't know if you see me like looking at the computer. We have comments coming in. I
No,
can see live interaction.
So I hope you don't have
Dave. This is high tech stuff.
We're running it up.
High tech production.
Okay.
Top flight.
No, but we've had some people said. Preston said that he met you when he went to WLX Studio, and you was a very cool dude. That's what he wrote. Wayne Rudolphich said that you're a top-notch journalist, very fair and objective. So that's great. I'm gonna flash that on the screen. Just
Coach Rudolphich.
Yeah, Coach Rudolphich.
He's our old football coach.
I know Wayne Rudolphich.
He's a good guy.
And then we have a friend of the show here, Keith Wilson, wrote in a great topic that I might have just dusted right by. Thanks, Keith, for bringing it up. He asked about you and Karen Abernathy. We kind of talked about it at the beginning. Keith, go back, check that out. But they have been working together since 1986. Yeah. Longest running duo there for local news for sure.
Yeah. Well, in Mississippi, I know that
for sure. But he did ask about how you felt in the midst of covering Hurricane Katrina. I would have probably skipped right over that. That's
Hurricane
thing.
Katrina. To me, Hurricane Katrina either seems like it was 100 years ago or yesterday.
That's a great way.
I can't really. It's always still sort of a blur. I mean, there was the storm. And we were in the building. I was live on the air.
Yeah. I remember that.
Yes.
I remember watching it until the power went out.
Well, that's just it. Once the power goes out, And then to me, which is always the story of a hurricane, it's the aftermath. You know, the no electricity. We had no idea. And everybody can say this, I think, because people were swimming for their lives. We had no idea what was happening out there until after the storm had kind of passed. And then we went out and we went down to the end of DeBees Road and we're like, where's Olive Garden?
Right.
Y'all studio's not very far.
Yeah. Where's Red Lobster?
Right.
Where, and then I drove further down and I could really tell you some stories about the National Guard and stuff and FEMA afterwards, how I probably almost got shot a couple of times as a journalist. But then we went further down and there's the President Casino over by the Coast Coliseum and Tullis Tulladeno Manor crushed by, I guess that was Grand, wasn't it?
Yep.
Grand in Biloxi.
Yes, that one went on the
that
north
one
side
went across the
Treasure Bay did.
Yeah, Treasure Bay did.
Man, that was terrible. But so I don't remember if it was WLOX that said it, but I remember being during Katrina, someone reported. This was pre-social media, so it had to be from y'all or the radio maybe at that time. I don't remember, but that Porto Bay right over here, Lemoyne, that there were people on their rooftops in Porto Bay, and I remember hearing that going, no, there's no way. Yeah. They got the wrong neighborhood, but that's so naive to think that I would say that.
It was legit,
right? And then you get out and you're like, oh my god, okay, and then that
it was an atomic bomb.
It was.
Everyone always says New Orleans was hit by Katrina. No, New Orleans was hit by a failure of an outdated, antiquated levee system. Correct. The Gulf Coast was hit
St.
by
Louis,
Katrina.
Specifically. That's where the high hit, right?
Yeah, Hancock County got killed.
Oh, I'm glad that's behind.
I lost a house in Katrina, but it wasn't storms other than a bayou. I had 9 feet of rising water. So.
Right. Tell us the FEMA story, the National Guard. I've heard rumors that
I had fights on the air actually with the FEMA guys they would send down from Washington because I thought they weren't answering the question squarely, and that didn't sit well with me.
History proved that was true.
Yeah,
right? They were not giving out correct information.
So I mean, I would have. And then they brought in police officers from different states. I don't know if a lot of people remember after Katrina, and the local police were pretty good. They had razor wire at the tracks.
Yes.
Yeah,
I
so
remember
you
that.
couldn't get
guys-
across. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and I don't know if a lot of people realize this, but the government was actually about that close to calling martial law. So,
I'm surprised they didn't.
It kind of felt like that, but I don't really know what, how martial law would be if they really enacted it. But I do remember going to the tracks downtown Biloxi,
and you couldn't get across.
in Biloxi, couldn't get across.
Yeah.
But also, I had never in my life up to that point seen Biloxi downtown by the mall, Edgewater Mall, completely dark.
Demolished.
No, just dark.
Yeah.
No lights, no street lights.
well,
no
that's
nothing,
the
nothing.
weird thing, isn't it? When you don't even recognize landmarks and intersections.
Right.
You're like, what the heck?
Yeah,
What's going on?
that was crazy. It was very
So
crazy.
Katrina's the biggest. You just can't deny it. Anytime you have every 110-year event, as Katrina was,
Right.
that's got to be the biggest
Yeah.
story since I've been here. So
Yeah,
Right.
and I would. Thanks, Keith, because I would have missed that.
Well, it keeps. I mean,
Thanks,
the
Keith.
biggest story was Camille, and then after
Yeah.
Camille, now
Yeah.
it's Katrina.
and unfortunately, it's
it's
going to
gonna
be
be a
another
next one, yeah.
Well, and it's COVID too right now,
Yeah.
right? I mean,
Yeah.
that's not a hurricane, but it was took the whole world by storm, and that's all we've been talking about for over a year now,
Yeah,
or a year now. So
And the damage
Well-
done has been comparable to any man-made or any
Absolutely.
natural disaster that there could ever have been. So.
what's the future look like? What are your plans?
Yeah.
You gonna,
I'm 2-3 years away from walking.
really?
Oh yeah, another 2-3 years.
Lot
I'm
of-
in no great hurry.
A lot of golf going on after that.
Yeah, well, I've decided to live here. I had a choice. I have a couple of houses in different states, but we've now decided we're probably going to stay here. So, we'll see. I don't know. Travel is what I'm going to do. So,
Okay, that ain't nothing wrong with
Yeah.
that. Man.
No, that
Start a
sounds
podcast.
great. Yeah.
now if I was
Start
your
a podcast,
age,
Dave.
I would start. Actually, I've been people have been pushing me to start a podcast. You guys have to read my Facebook page. I can get pretty radical, but I not on my WLOX page.
Right.
But I make the station very nervous on my personal page. So.
You don't come across as somebody who's really worried about that, though.
No.
I like that. I
Seems like it just
I
blew over
appreciate
the
that.
shoulder.
Yeah, he's like, what if it happens? It
Yeah.
happens.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, if they talk about you behind your back and worry about you behind your back, what can you do?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. The only other thing I can think of we didn't talk about was cruising the coast as far as large events that
I
you
don't
covered.
like
But
cruising the coast.
you don't.
Yeah, too much traffic.
That's the only bad thing I've heard you say on this whole podcast.
Too
man.
much
That
traffic,
hurts.
huh?
Well, I loved it at first.
Yeah, it is. a
Now
little-
it's like, what?
yeah.
I got to go where
Yeah.
and do what? No,
All
I'm
right.
just kidding. I love cruising the coast.
Now
And
you're,
bring
now
the
you're
pile.
backpedaling. Don't backpedal. Just own it. I'm proud of you for owning it. But no, man, that's great. We really appreciate you stopping in
Yeah,
here
appreciate
today
it.
and talking
No,
to
that's
us,
cool.
taking time out
That's
of your
cool.
day.
Let's see how long we've been on.
About 41 minutes.
Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah,
We
flies
didn't even
by.
talk about politics.
You said
Okay.
libertarian and
If
anarchy.
you're ready to dive into that,
I tell you what I
mean,
will
just let us
do.
know.
Yeah, what's the topic? Because that is listed on our website as one of our social accounts as one of our topics. What do you think? Tate Reeves did a good job so far. Are we gonna
Well,
go-
yeah, Tate Reeves is going to be hard to judge because you have to judge him. Well, even though we got to know him as 8 years as lieutenant governor, he's got to be judged
Yeah.
purely by how he handled
COVID.
You
Right.
can't say what kind of governor has Tate Reeves been
right.
when he's takes office in January and then the pandemic breaks out in March. So he's judged entirely right now by how he handled COVID.
Right.
Although we did get to know him pretty well
the
during
briefings and
Yeah,
all,
and no, while he was lieutenant governor
Oh, okay.
for 8 years. So everyone knows where Tate Reeves is. But I have a good relationship with Tate Reeves. But I just wanted to say some of the best things I get are my off-the-record conversations that I have with governors and senators
Yeah.
and mayors and stuff like that. So
That's why you should start your own
You should
podcast.
definitely.
well, it's off the record for a reason.
Well, that's
but,
true
Yeah.
too.
but it also gives you then an idea as to why this is happening.
Correct.
Correct.
Why this project isn't happening or something like that.
The South opened back up. I think most of the governors down here, from COVID, they opened it back up. I think everybody was happy with what's going on.
Well,
Not everybody, but
Well, most.
Yeah, well, a lot of people were scared.
Yeah.
A lot of older demographics were scared.
Right.
But nothing like, New York, California, Michigan.
Which are still in lockdown.
Yeah.
well, I think they're
these
slowly
states.
coming out. But you're right for the most part.
Well, they kind of have to now. They have no choice. but
People
to
are starving.
Yeah.
If we're sticking on politics, what's your take on this initiative 65 that just recently got?
Well, it was a sloppy bill, and people don't want to hear me say that. But I think that's why the legislature was kind of compelled to draw up 65A. Medical marijuana does not have friends in high places in Jackson. But anything that gets 74% of the vote
Correct.
is a landslide by any standard. So lawmakers are now obligated to craft a program. And when that's going to happen, because they're up there debating it right now, hot and heavy. Then the governor's not going to call a special session until they work it out behind the scenes and hammer it out, because he doesn't want to. He wants them in and out in 2 or 3 days. So it's going to happen. I was thinking a couple of weeks, but it could be longer, and I hope not, because I think the people kind of got screwed on that deal.
Yeah, I mean, every initiative since when? What was the date?
2003
Is null and void.
No, there's this unspoken statute of limitation, I've been told, where that's what judges will look at. It's too late to complain about. For instance, 2011 was voter ID. They're not going to overturn that as a result of this. And there were a couple of other things we voted on. But until they change the initiative process, the language now, anything else moving forward, I mean, is dead in the water.
Okay.
You say sloppy. The bill was sloppy.
The bill was sloppy.
Way?
It was sloppy in giving cities authority on code, on where dispensaries could be and things like that. Other states, it was much tighter. Also, taxation. It was very vague on taxation for the state, and the state's going to take its taxes, brother.
No doubt.
That. So that's your take on it, but like that's not anarchy or libertarian, right? Like in other words, I would think would be for more city controlled where they can be, where not, versus straight down from
but the cities were complaining, and that's what the Madison mayor's initial suit was about, was coding, that she didn't think she had enough authority to control when, how, where dispensaries would be. And the Department of Health, who was going to regulate it, was against it. Yeah. So, and no one knew quite where the suppliers were going to come from.
So it was too much, too fast.
I don't know. No, I just think it needed to be tightened up.
I kind of still blame it on the legislatures, though, because from what I've heard, that they've had ample opportunity to write their own bill for medical marijuana in the state, and either never did or they never got out of committee and definitely never passed. Right. So the citizens take it upon themselves. I mean, you know where I'm going with that. Like you said, 74% dollar bill. That is not a few people.
No, that's a landslide.
Yeah. You don't ever get 74% in politics or anything.
Yeah. So they're now obligated to do it, but Speaker Gunn isn't a big fan of it, and he's very powerful. Hoseman, I'm not sure where he stands on it. The governor, I think, probably is opposed to it. So we'll have to see. I
wonder why. Is it philosophy?
There's a thinking, and it's legitimate if you look at world history and human nature, that if you open the door a crack, somebody's going to kick it in.
Turns to Portland. Turns into Portland.
Yeah. So they think. And I don't think it's going to happen, but they think it's okay. That means we're 18 months away from recreational marijuana. We can't have that here in Mississippi. So.
What are they going to do if they overturn it at the federal level? I mean, I think that's just let me get some good votes out of this trump card to play at some point politically for some party, right?
Yeah. Well, it's inevitable.
Right. That's what I'm saying.
It's going to happen.
Right.
It's happening one state after another. They're falling like dominoes in terms of recreational marijuana. But I think this is going to work out and everybody's going to be happy.
We're going to have Mayor Shay Dobson. He's been very vocal about
medical. A little too vocal.
Little too, Shay, you heard it. All right. No, he's been very vocal about it.
Does.
Even prior to Initiative 65, he was.
I know Shay quite well.
Yeah, he's a friend of ours. Yeah. So he's going to come on and talk about it as well. But what other political issues is on the mind there, Dave? Anything I've not brought up yet? Come on, man.
I don't know. You mean in Mississippi, nationally,
internationally? Man. You pick. Let's get it.
Well, we could talk about what's happening with the current administration and what's happening with the spending that is through the roof and crazy in Washington, D.C. right now.
You're talking about the infrastructure?
Yeah,
infrastructure. The infrastructure bill?
Is
that what you're talking about?
Yeah, pretty much. We already spent $6 million on COVID, and then we're going to throw another $2.2 trillion in on make-believe infrastructure. Obama did infrastructure in 2009. It was $780 billion, and everyone freaked out. Now they're going $2.2 trillion. So I guess trillion is the new billion.
Correct.
Do I have that backwards?
No. It's just a number.
Yeah,
it's just a number.
That's right.
So I don't like all of that. And think about infrastructure. They can't even fix frickin' potholes.
No.
You think they're going to tear up city water systems? You think they're going to fix airports and ports and highways and bridges?
It's going to be a money grab, but you know, never let a good let a good tragedy go to waste.
Yeah, never let a crisis go
It
to
all
waste.
goes. It's
Rahm Emanuel.
It all goes to education.
That's
and
why we got you
roads
here.
and goes somewhere else.
Yeah.
It's always promised to education and roads. And
But the lottery's kind of come through on that education.
the lottery has, who was that? Toronto. It was in here talking about
Carrie.
how Carrie. Yeah, she was talking about how the Toronto. I mean the
money from
lotto.
would be
money
allocated
come
towards
into
education.
schools,
But they
yeah.
also said the same thing for gambling, right? As well.
Well, the
That
schools
was-
are getting gambling.
They
They
are. They are.
In Biloxi
In
and
Biloxi
Harrison
schools.
County.
Yeah.
Jackson County isn't.
The Iredale's getting some now though. We got a casino too. So
Yeah.
just a little pinch of it.
I don't know.
All right. Well, I've probably broken the record. What's the longest
Oh
show
no.
you've ever done?
No. When
no.
we get in here and really get to drinking heavy, these things go an hour and a half, 2 hours. But we appreciate your time.
Absolutely.
Okay, man. My
we've-
pleasure.
Everything you've done for the Gulf Coast and all the reporting you've done over the years has been great. We appreciate it.
Yeah.
It's,
Okay, my pleasure.
it's good to have you in the
Yeah.
studio today, and look forward to. What'd you say? 2 or 3 more years?
Yeah,
6
2 or 3
10
more years. Who knows? Who
Okay.
knows?
You come back on the show and
Yeah.
tell us how your
As
golf
long
game's
as,
going.
well, I'm sloppy right now on the golf course.
That's
But,
okay. You'll be
yeah.
better by that retirement.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anytime you want to stop back in and talk to
Cool.
us about any issue or whatever, it's an open invitation. You just let us know.
Jared,
Appreciate it.
Joey, thanks.
Yes,
Yeah,
sir.
thank
All right.
you.
I appreciate it. And we want to thank
See ya.
everybody in the comment section and everybody that tuned in to watch and listen in on the replays. We appreciate it, man. And we'll see y'all
Yep.
on the next one.